Hi guys, it's Quinn with PTSD While Black um, for VEDA, blog every day in April. Today I want to talk about something that my mentor and I had a conversation yesterday because I'm dealing with this spiritual program around my compulsive eating, especially since the concussion. Whenever I'm in a lot of pain or if I'm having a PTSD trigger, I'm more like driven towards eating food. Especially the bite. I think the anger or the pain is in the jaw. And like working on the spiritual program, the spiritual process of um, doing this process of forgiving others for the things that they have done to me and forgiving myself for having acted out of pain, fear, or the threat to my resources. Um, I'm learning to make amends to rebuild those relationships. And through this process, towards the end, once I'm through with the process and I've gotten a greater spiritual connection and stability, eventually I will go on to mentor someone myself. And that I talked to my sponsor about that. I'm like, that's really not something that I don't think I'm eligible to be a mentor to someone else because I'm overweight. And he had this wonderful like reflection or idea. He's like, when you get to this point, he's like, don't try to stress about it immediately, but because I'm at the point now where I'm trying to point it out daily whenever I have a fear or a resentment, or if I'm being dishonest, to point it out daily, ask God to help me remove that fear or resentment. And if I harm somebody, to call, based upon acting on that fear or resentment, to contact my mentor or someone else who's also doing the spiritual journey, and to admit it to someone, talk it out with someone, and to discuss how I can amend the harms that I've done to someone because I acted out on my fear. Um, and he's like, once you've gotten that under your belt and you're doing this more and more often, he's like, you're going to have a set of tools that you will be able to use to pass on to someone else. And he's like, regardless of your weight, regardless of your size, you've learned how to be emotionally and spiritually centered. And that, and I've seen it as weird, like especially since I've started with a lot of the amends process and naming my feelings in the moment and naming that I'm acting out in resentment or fear, that the more that I'm doing this, the less that I crave to binge, the less, if I do binge, then there's like this weird knowing of, okay, this was enough, or that I don't feel like taking in additional calories. I don't feel like eating anymore versus that I should or must or need to or what have you. It's like a really, really weird process that I can't even explain. Um, but it's just been beautiful. It's been a very beautiful process. Um, and what his way of describing for me, saying, oh, I have nothing that I can offer somebody else. He's like, imagine that somebody is drowning in the ocean right now, that they're succumbing to their fears or what have you. And here you are, you've got a boat and you've got a life preserver. He's like, are you not going to throw out the life preserver because, oh, it's not the right color, or it's not the right shape? If it can help save that person, are you not going to do it? And so it just made me look at, oh my God, okay, I guess that regardless of what I look like, there is still something that I have to offer someone else, even if it is the ability to be calm in the midst of all the woo. Um, and so it was like calming to be able to talk about that. Like, how often have you not reached out your hand to help somebody because, I don't think I'm enough. I don't think I'm worthy. I don't think I'm capable. And so I'm really having to look at that inferiority within me that stops me from saying, hey, I see you're struggling. May I help you? Um, Even though I think, oh my God, I'm in too much pain, or I have a concussion. This is the real truth. I have this concussion and I have trouble with memory, or I can't speak clearly, that I'm not going to be enough for someone. Um, and I've watched myself through the process of going through this pain of how I've kind of held myself back. And like a few videos ago, when we are talking about the Tony Robbins and the Me Too thing, regardless of the fact that I've had this concussion, I still have the experience that I learned from doing the hypnosis certification. I still have the experience that I learned from the NLP type trainings that I've done. So it's still experience. It may not be perfect. It may not look like it's wrapped up in a pretty bow, but it's still a way that I can be of service. It's experience that I have that can be of service to someone, even if it's just me listening and having a conversation where I'm validating someone's experience, period. I can do that. Um, so I really that was like my very first um, daily inventory, in the moment inventory that I took, was saying, I have this fear that I'm not going to be worthy, that I'm not going to be enough to help someone. So that was nice, because I've thought for quite some time, because I walk with a cane uh, outside, or because I live with chronic pain, that I'm not going to be able to help anybody else. And so I see that I'm choosing to stay in self-pity. I see that I'm choosing to um, not accept that even my experience will be of service to someone at some point. And that's something a therapist told me just after the car accident. She's like, Quinn, even if you ended up being just a talking head in a bed, you would still be teaching a nurse compassion for another human being. Um, and so I'm like, wow, that was a different way of thinking about it. So I guess I can choose to look at, even if this stuff with the concussion and the weird fuzzies and the forgetfulness, even if it never clears up, I still have some experience that I have to offer to another person, and that's really surprising. I go to a brain injury support group once a month, and I'm realizing that even there, even if I just listen to somebody else who's going through, they just came out of the hospital from their traumatic injury, um, just by listening, I'm validating that person, I'm validating their experience, and I'm doing service. So that's been like, wow, really surprising. And by sharing, okay, this is what it was like for me, and this is kind of where I am now. And I have good days. I have really good days that make me forget that I have had bad days. Um, and then I remember the tripping up on those bad days. Um, that sharing that experience too can be useful for someone else. So I was just like really blown away by that discussion. So yeah, that's been a really beautiful process, and I'm really grateful for it. Um, yeah. So till next time, peace. Take care of yourself.